Hi there, it's Tweed Scott, and welcome to a special Christmas bonus edition of the Texan Edge. All month long, I've been sharing stories that stretch a little beyond our usual 2 to 3 minute format. These episodes are meant to be savored, like a good cup of cocoa, a crackling fire, and a quiet moment to yourself. These holiday tales come straight from my own family, my own life, and the people who shaped it. Some are pretty funny, some are heartfelt, but all of them carry the kind of spirit that keeps Christmas traditions alive across the years. So I invite you to settle in, take a breath, and let's enjoy a little extra warmth and wonder this season. This story is called Without a Doubt. And without a doubt, my favorite two holidays of the year are Christmas and the 4th of July. The 4th of July brings out the patriotic side of me. Christmas brings out my reflective side. And even as a boy, I'd find myself looking back and reflecting upon Christmases past. I don't know why. It's just how I am. But there is something about this holiday that leads itself to memories. I think about all the toys and the games that I had received and about the Christmas trees past, too. However, most of my memories were centered on people, many of which, if not most, who are no longer with me. I grew up in a rather large extended family on my mother's side. They were known as the Della Portas. My mother and her brothers and sisters were raised by an Italian father and a Portuguese mother. As a child, my most vivid memories are of laughter and food. The Della Porta family knew how to cook and eat. In fact, I remember eating my very first chestnuts roasted over an open fire. Frankly, I wasn't too fond of the chestnuts, but I ate them. I loved my aunts and uncles and all my cousins too. The family gatherings at Christmas were always special. Our family was so large, I think I was still sitting at the card table when I was 40 years old. As a child, just beyond toddler, I remember my great-grandmother, Christina, my grandfather's mother. I was always told that she was the only one in the family with blue eyes and that I got mine from her. So I've always felt a special connection with her. I remember standing there beside her. In fact, there is a picture of the two of us in the family album. I was maybe 4 or 5 at the time. She died on Christmas Eve. For several years afterwards, as joyous as the Christmas season was, there was always a bit of a pall over the holiday. Now, for years afterward, she would often come up in the conversations. But then again, I mostly remember the food. We ate lots of Italian food. Then there was the turkey and the ham. It was a great feast every year. More food than you could possibly eat, topped off with those decadent Italian pastries. I remember being covered in powdered sugar. We always had Christmas at our house, where Santa would leave lots of booty for me. But no Christmas was complete without going to Grandma and Grandpa's to see what Santa left me under their tree. I cannot remember a Christmas when I was disappointed. That Santa Claus guy had to be a pretty rich dude, It wasn't that I got all these wildly extravagant gifts, but he always seemed to bring that one thing that I wanted the most. That Santa guy, you know what? He's okay in my book. I spent every one of my first 17 Christmases at home. The first 6 or 7 were in Rhode Island, where I was born. The rest were in Laconia, New Hampshire, where I grew up. Now, I have lots of memories of the holidays. The one that comes to mind at the moment was my last Christmas in Laconia. It was supposed to be my first Christmas away from home. I had enlisted in the U.S. Navy in the month of March prior to my graduation from high school in June. And I was supposed to be away at school at Naval Air Station, Lakehurst, New Jersey, learning how to be a parachute rigger. At the last minute, I was able to wrangle a pass to go home for a couple of days before Christmas. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell my folks, and there's a good reason for that. Based on previous experience with my mom, I didn't want to deal with trying to explain to her what my plans were. Remind me sometime, and I'll tell you the story about, and it's a very funny story too, about my mom getting me home from boot camp. Yeah, it's funny. No, it's hilarious. And to this day, it's still downright embarrassing. I'll give you the cliff notes here. My mother called the admiral at Great Lakes to make sure that her little boy would get home from boot camp safely. Embarrassing doesn't begin to explain the emotion I felt when I was called out in front of 700 other sailors and told that I had a phone call from my mother. Maybe that's what scarred me for life. Well, for this trip, I figured out that I could get home all by myself. I took a bus to Newark, boarded a plane bound for Boston, and from Logan Airport, I took the bus to Laconia. It was just that simple. When I arrived in Laconia, it was like a Christmas postcard. I got there late in the afternoon, and it was right at dusk. The Christmas lights were on everywhere. All the street light columns were adorned with familiar Christmas decorations. Snow was falling heavily, and I'd been home for about an hour, so it crunched under my feet. I was dressed in my navy dress blues, covered by my navy peacoat, all topped off in my white sailor's hat. The bus depot was at the train station. To get home, I had to walk through downtown, and as I strolled down Main Street, I passed Greenlaw's Music, Sawyer's Jewelry Store, and Woolworth's. I was thirsty, so I decided to stop in and get a Coca-Cola at the soda fountain. My friends, Norman and Rainer Mandan's mother, worked at the soda fountain. As kids, she would often buy us a Coca-Cola on our way home from school, and for me, there was nothing like the taste of a fountain Coca-Cola. It was always sweet and tasty as all get out. Now, as she and I talked about what I was doing in the service and what was happening in Laconia, I realized it was getting late and that I needed to get home before the snow got too bad. I couldn't wait to surprise my mom. I left and headed back down Main Street. I remember crossing the bridge in the snow and stopping at the rail looking down into the Winnisquam River. I used to catch suckers there as a kid. Really just a trash fish, but they gave you a good fight. They were just fun to catch and release. I had many vivid memories of both crossing and standing on that bridge and watching the river change colors as the Cormier Mill dumped dye directly into the river. I also remember watching the salmon that used to jump the falls at the dam upstream years before. I lingered for a few minutes looking around downtown, soaking up the sights and the memories of this place that I truly loved. I proceeded to walk down to Baldy's Corner and turned right on Court Street and angled off onto Academy Street. As I passed what used to be the Academy Street School, where I once attended, I looked to my right and across the street at my friend Larry Howe's house. I wondered where he was and what he was doing that day. Little did I know that at that time he was off in the Navy himself, having his own adventures. Now, the snow was getting deeper, and it was about 3 inches or so by now, and it's not doing my highly polished dress shoes any good. I continued down Academy and hung a left at the corner onto Lincoln Street. I pushed my way down the sidewalk past 7 or 8 houses until I reached the front steps of my house at 69 Lincoln Street. I bounded up the steps onto the porch and knocked on the door. After a moment or two, the big heavy door swung open. There stood my mom with her mouth agape, with a shocked look on her face. Suddenly, that familiar gleam in the eye came across her face, and she greeted me with a big smile in her open arms and hugged me with all of her might. She cried out, "What are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming home." I responded with, "Well, the Navy decided that they don't need me for a few days, so Merry Christmas, Mom." I thought she was going to cry. It made me feel so good to make her feel good. Now, my stepdad, Hal, I called him Pop, well, he wasn't going to get home until later that evening from work at St. Pierre's Restaurant. He was surprised to see me, too. Maybe it was because I was in the service then. We all felt a special closeness that night. There were lots of questions about what the future held for all of us, but at that very moment, there was genuine love being shared. It was palpable. You could feel it. Later in the evening, we huddled up by the Christmas tree, each of us with a glass of our favorite nog. We spoke of Christmases past and some of our favorite memories. Yes, including the awful Christmas tree from the year before, the one I told you about before. I smile whenever I remember those tender moments. So many of those people are gone now. My parents, grandparents, all of my aunts and uncles, and too many friends to name. All gone now, but I'm grateful every time I think of them for the time that they share with me during their lives. What has often struck me the most is how our memories are focused on people and not things. There's something to be learned from that. I have been so blessed to have had many remarkable people pass through my life, some for only mere moments, and others are lifelong friends. God has blessed me with lots of family and friends, and I consider you among them. Thank you for sharing part of you with me. As I reflect on this past year, I can only feel that I have been blessed beyond measure by God. I believe in Him and His Son. My heart surgery over a dozen years ago was an unqualified success. So was my bladder cancer the following year after that. I'm still here to celebrate another Christmas with you. My Christmases are not measured in gifts that I might have received, but in the knowledge that I too am loved by my children, my family, and friends. And that means more to me than anything. As I reflect on this Christmas, I wish you and yours joy, happiness, and to be loved beyond measure. I'm thankful. I'm the luckiest man on earth because I have you in my life. Merry Christmas from my heart to yours.